Welcome to a Star Week of Weird. It's not going well so far. I was giving everyone their, morning meals, and then I leaned onto this shelf, and then it all toppled over because I, for some reason, put all the heavy books on that shelf. Because I am an idiot. Anyways, now they are switched. Now it is stable. Loomis is unstable. And when it fell, cats just lost their shit and things went everywhere. Loomis, what do you have to say for yourself? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything, actually. You were actually completely fine and nice. You'd even knock your dish over. So you're good. So for the week of weird this year, I'm going to try, second week of weird, I'm going to try to do a bunch of weird arcs. I have a bunch of arcs that I want to get to. So unfortunately, I am in the middle of another book that I gotta finish first. I mean, I don't have to finish it, but whatever, man. This is Headhunter by Michael Slade, a book that looks like it's gonna be a hard-hitting serial killer book, but is really 90% boring cop shit. The only thing weird about this book is why the cover's so good and the book isn't. Why? 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 Look at them teethies. Oh, they're so gross. They're so gross. They're so gross. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. Talk to you later. Starting some official week of weird reads with Golgotha Motor Mountain, which is a very weird looking comic book that I got on NetGalley. Currently watching Kelsey's sprints. She's doing some sprints. So what better time to get weird than sprinting? And also put another layer on this guy. Well, technically it's a lady. Put another lady on this layer on this lady. Just trying to do another batch of orange to get all of the black overlap. And then I'm going to try to paint some white on this character next. So I'll keep the update and see how that goes. Bye-bye. Okay, so I just finished Golgotha Motor Mountain, the comic book. And this was a weird comic book. This is very appropriate for a week of weird. Essentially, it's like these two brothers who are cooking meth in, oh God, where is it? Is it like, I'm trying to remember where it's at. Kentucky. Yeah, so in Kentucky. And one day they're getting prepared to like finally make their final deliveries, get all the money, and then get out of this city that's been slowly kind of going down and down and down over the decades and years. It's like a community in decline, full of like people who are taking advantage, and there's like white nationalists, and there's like these like conspiracy theories, peoples and stuff like that. Anyways, so they are cooking meth for these people who live here, and this weird meteor comes down. So they start to cook the meth with the meteor dust, and they bring it to all of these various places that they have to do the deliveries for. So the first one they go is this weird white nationalist thing, and they're like, we don't know about this new material, so you have to do it. So one of the brothers like snorts some of it, and then all the other like the white nationalists, they all start smoking some of it, and then they start to become like this weird amorphous blob with like all these like weird tentacles and weird like creatures, and it's like basically like they're all one entity. That are all kind of like consumed by each other, and it's like this entity of hate kind of thing, I guess. I don't really know. And then there's like this weird cop who's trying to chase them down, and he kind of is like following them as they go through these various places. And like the next place they go to is like this place that at first seems like it's a veteran society with like all these people with like quote unquote wartime injuries, but you discover that they're not actually, a lot of them are not actually people who were veterans. They're like people who have like been lying to themselves, and they need like a lie in order to continue living. And it's like a lot of this book is about like who you are deep down, and the cosmic relevance of self-identity, I guess. I don't know. It's a weird one. The artwork is amazing. The story is very strange. It's very strange. Like the artwork and some of the designs are just so weird. I do like the end of it, because like what this cosmic entity is supposed to do is it's supposed to like break you down to your consistent points and like figure out what exactly you are truly deep down inside. And it's like one of the brothers is going through the change and the other one is not and is still human. And yeah, no, it's just a very strange, weird story. And no, I did enjoy it. Um, Probably one that I got to think on a little bit, and maybe something that I would like to reread again in the future because it just seems like there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of like little history tidbits in here that were kind of interesting and unique and strange, and so the visuals are amazing. The plot is interesting, and it's just kind of trying to figure out what exactly they're trying to say. This is obviously all taking place in like rural Kentucky, so like there are words used that we don't use anymore, but that's kind of the point. It's like a society in decline, and that's where this cosmic entity has landed. And then, it's just very strange and weird, and you don't really know what's going on. And even at the end, you're kind of like, I don't really know what's going on, but this was interesting. So yeah, I had a good time with it. I guess I might go back to reading Headhunter, or I might start. There's another. Do 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 a do 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 do. This book right here, The Investigators of Arkham Horror, is the one that I want to get to next. So I'm not exactly sure what it's all about, but we'll see, and I'll get back to you later. Bye bye. Well, that was bad. I DNF'd this. I DNF'd this at 230 pages in. Because I was like, this is just really bad. Like, there is so much police procedural in this that I got so bored. All of the characters are boring. So it's like a very, like, a quote-unquote realistic version. I don't know why this is under the horror line. Like, I don't know who thought that this was horror. This is not horror. This is a thriller, bitch. There's all these things about horror. Fucking Robert Bloch is like, oh, it's horror. And I was like, well, I've read Psycho 2, and that was really bad. So, I don't know. Maybe Robert Bloch is not someone to get all your greatest fucking opinions on what fucking horror is. But anyways, this is just some police procedural that's just really boring. Like, really boring. People are like, oh, it's so boring. It's so boring. None of the characters are interesting. This, like, fillets the Vancouver Police Department and the RCMP, which, like, as a Canadian, I'm like, oh my fucking God. A few years after this book is published, the Vancouver Police Department royally screws up the Robert Pickton case, like, in such a way that, like, reading a book that seems to think, like, this is what it's like. They're actually really, really cool. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. They did horrible things. They were a really bad police department, especially around the time that this book is written, and a lot of horrible things happened under their purview. I wouldn't suggest looking up the real life Robert Pickton case if you want to be happy in life, but it's really effed up. And a lot of the people that this book criminalizes and just like talks about being like, trash essentially, are the people who died from who were victims of Robert Pickton. So it's just like reading this book and like the police department's told, oh, wow, and I'm just like, yeah. So I guess I have a personal issue with this book. Also, it's just fucking boring. I looked up who the killer was because I was like, this is so fucking boring. And then I look up who the killer is, and I was like, that's the killer. That's lame as fuck. That's lame. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways. Whatever, man. I'm going on to read some H.P. Lovecraft fiction. Oh yeah, and there was also like some just abhorrent transphobia in this, like some real bad 1980s transphobia, and I was like, I don't fucking need this. I don't need this shit. Not at all. I'm done. Goodbye, Headhunter. Go hunt good shit instead of the bad shit that you are hunting. Goodbye. I'm kind of tired and want to go to bed, but Loomis is like too frickin' cute. Wisteria? Naomi? I don't know where Claude's at. Cloud's the only one who's not kicking around. So I'm currently reading The Investigators of Arkham, which is another arc, and I am really liking it. I'm really liking it. So I guess I'll read more until Sir Pounce here. Sir Pounce? Sir Pouncington? Decides to get up. Normally he's so energetic and always doing things. But now he's sleeping on the one pillow. The little turd. Anyways, I'll get back to the book. Look at how cute this cat is. Look at him. Look at his little face. Oh my god, he's perfect. He's like a little angel without wings. Nah, he's a devil. He's a devil in disguise. He's gonna destroy you with his laser eyes. Look at him. Look at that laser vision. He's off to commit crimes. And Loomis is just sleeping. Oh, it's getting all fuzzy. Oh, that's a kazoo again. Exciting mail day. Exciting mail day. I have this copy of Ghost Dancers, the Dark Future novel. And with this, I now have every single one of those original Dark Future novels. The only one I'm missing is the other version of Route 666, but I did actually purchase that. It's just currently with Criminale, because it was like I bought it in Britain. And I sent it to him and I was like, you should read this because I think you'd enjoy this. And then whenever you read it, I'll pay for you to ship it here. So it's currently in the possession of Criminale, but so that's that. And then I also I have one of these original Warhammer GW books versions of Wolf Riders, which is an anthology, and it has all kinds of red artwork. And this is OG Warhammer Fantasy. So with this, I just about have a complete collection of the DGW books line. So there's like a trio of ones about, like, there's a bunch of them that are like the Conrad books. I think there's just like one Conrad and another one or whatever that was released in that line. But I ended up just buying this omnibus that has like all of the Conrad books in it. But the other one I need, I don't need it, but I would really like, is the sequel to Zaragos, which is Plague Demon, released in this format. And that would be the last one of this version of GW books that I have. I'm so glad I have these older short story collections. So that's actually really cool. So both of those are badass. And the only book now that I do not have purchased from the Dark Future line is from the Black Flame series. So they released more books in the Black Flame series. So there's like American Meat, Jade Dragon, and Golgotha Run. And the only one I'm missing from that is Reality Bites by Stuart Moore. Which is the last one that I need to get, and I know where to get it. I just haven't spent the money on it yet. It's like it's like $28 for like a library copy, and I'm like, ooh, it's a little bit more than I would be willing to spend normally, but it completes the collection, and I would just be happy to complete the collection. So I also do have a line on Plague Demon as well. So if I get paid in the next week, I might end up biting the bullet on those guys. But yeah, so that's really excited to almost complete both of those really early GW books things. So look at that. That was good. And I'm amazed both of those arrived at the same day. I mean, technically I did order them on the same day, but like I wasn't sure when they were going to arrive. So good day. Look at these cuties. Aww. You guys are so cute. Aww.
Anything for Orpheus. Anything. I love him so fucking much. Oh my god, he's such a fucking angel. Like,
just editing and recorded my little video about book spines. I don't know why I recorded that, but I did. I was like, I want to talk about book spines. And there you go. That's my video about spines. But other than that, I actually have 3 books on the go at the moment. Yiki. I think I'll actually finish most of them today. At least 1 or 2 of them today. So I'm listening to the short story collection, Classic Monsters Unleashed, which is really good. I've just been listening to that for a little bit. I only have 6 hours left of that one on my current listening speed, so like I'll probably finish it either today or tomorrow. This book I started last night, which is The Dragon Kings of Oklahoma, which is just really fun and funny. Like I'm really liking this. It's got like a really good tone to it, and it's just a complete blast. I'm really enjoying this one. And then I do have the Investigators of Arkham book that I'm also reading, which is another kind of short story collection. So this one is like a only like 200-page book, but you know it is a book. So so I'll be diving into that. So I'll talk to you when I finish one of these, I guess. I don't know. Don't know where I'm gonna sleep tonight. The storm is still raging. Oh no, wait, the storm is gone. Oh, the storm is gone. It's just mostly just wind now. I am currently about to finish the Dragon Kings of Oklahoma. I think I just have about 5 more chapters left in this, and it's really good and interesting, but I'll talk about that later. I did finish Classic Monsters Unleashed, the short story collection, and that was really good. Now it's a modern short story collection, and while I did actually quite enjoy all the stories, I think there was only like 2 that I was a bit iffy on in the collection. It was still a very long collection, and I find that a lot of modern short story collections, especially the horror variety, they're probably about maybe like 5 stories too long, and like it's not even in the quality, it's in like if you're going to be reading a set of short stories, you don't want to try to cram too many in at once. And if you're reading a book, just reading it all at once, some of the shorter stories can kind of get lost in the shuffle when there is a whole bunch of stories and some of them are longer. My favorites of the stories, though, were by authors that I hadn't actually read anything by, but I really want to now. Lucy A. Snyder, who did Maiden Monster. Wait, is it Mother Maiden Monster? It's something like that. I'll have the author of that story did this awesome story about Jack the Ripper going into the opera of the Phantom of the Opera, and he tries to go about his evil shenanigans in the opera, and he is foiled by the Phantom. And I really liked that story. It had a really good character work in it, and I just thought it was really wonderful and interesting, and a good kind of twist on that formula. And I really loved the final story. So, like, I read this for Week of Weird, but, like, also, like, not all of these stories are weird. You know, some of them are just, like, modern monster tales, but the final one was very weird, and it is like the God of Knives, I think it was what it's called. Like, it was by Joe R. Lansdale, and it was freaking, oh my god, it was a messed up story. It was a messed up story, like people puking up like knives and stuff like that. You're like, what? And like, it's a weird tale. Another Jack the Ripper-esque tale. I mean, there's like Ripper-esque elements to that one, but it was a weird tale. So it, at least near the end, it definitely got into proper Week of Weird territory. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it pretty tremendously. Like, and like the amount of monsters was very varied. Like there were quite a few Frankenstein and Dracula stories, which is just kind of be to be expected. But they weren't like so like there was this great story by Owl Going Back, which was Dracula versus Sitting Bull, and it was like set in this period of the Old West where frickin' Dracula is coming to hunt Native Americans, and Sitting Bull, he goes up against Sitting Bull, and it's just great. It's great. I had actually never read any Owl Going Back books before, and I definitely want to now because yeah, that was an awesome short story, and it added a really creepy element to Dracula where there's like I didn't know these were existing, but there's something called bat flies, and I googled them, and I was grossed out, man. Bat flies are gross looking, it's scary looking. But like his version of Dracula had like bat flies roaming around him, and I was like, very gross, very gross. And like the Frankenstein stories were kind of like it was a bit more of like a mixture of things. Now this was not so they this is not like an official Universal Monsters like licensed short story collection, but a lot of the stories take very obvious inspiration from the Universal Monsters. Like the first Frankenstein story is like all about that the brain, the history of the brain that is in the monster in the movie version, because it's very different from the version of the monster in the book, and it's actually a female brain, and it's like really an interesting story. That one was really kind of unique and interesting. And then there is a story all about the bride, who gets called the widow because it's set after Bride of Frankenstein. But again, they can't directly say that it's that. But like when they describe the events, you're like, yeah, this is clearly after Bride of Frankenstein. And it's like if the bride had lived and she started becoming called the widow by people, which I just kind of loved. And yeah, that was an awesome story. But there were also like little creatures, like there was some surprises. Like there was one story about the Wicked Witch of the West and how she created the flying monkeys from freaking Wizard of Oz, and I was like, oh my god. It was like a brutal story. I was like, oh. There's like the fly, which I thought was really cool, like the fly human hybrids kind of. There's like a story with featuring them. And then there is a story with the blob, which I thought was really cool. There's one that like one of the best ones was about that was clearly taking it like information from the hands of Dr. Orlock, I believe it's called. I'll have that one up there, which is a movie that I have not seen, but I really want to now because it sounds fascinating. It's like this guy who gets like steals people's hands essentially after having his own hands damaged, and it just was like a really gruesome, creepy story that I loved. There is a fun, there's Dracula stories, but there's also Nosferatu stories where it's like the history of Count Orlok. If you don't know, the very first one of the very first vampire films is called Nosferatu, and it is a illegal adaptation of Bram Stoker's book that changes very small things in order to be like, this is not Dracula, but it's like clearly Dracula. But like instead of Dracula, it's like Count Orlok, and like the film actually got sued by Bram Stoker's widow at the time it got released. And there was like this big hullabaloo, and literally they were supposed to destroy all copies of Nosferatu, but thankfully it survived into the modern day, and it's like one of the biggest artistic vampire films, and is like incredibly influential. But it's fun that somebody took the character of Count Orlok and like made their own story with it, and like that was really good too. Like it was a really good, creature feature with how Count Orlok fell to vampirism. And yeah, no, it was just a very like varied short story collection. And like I said, there was like a few that were like kind of like iffy that I didn't love, but like for the most part, I thought they were all pretty great.
especially if you're looking for something to read over like the Halloween season, and you're like, so I was listening to this on audio, which all the audiobook narrators were great, but you just have to kind of be aware of like this is a book that probably you should just take a little bit more time with it than I did. I think I should have probably factored this out another day. I should have only listened to about 3 hours and then another 3 hours tomorrow, because I do think it's worth taking your time and just don't try to rush through all of them. But anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna continue reading this, but yeah, that audiobook was great. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. Talk to you later.
I have two cats meowing at me. They both want my attention. Who do I pay attention to? Oh, Lewis says him. Wisteria says her. Dun 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 dun, they're racing. Oh shit, they've gone to two different paths. What path do I take? I'm coming for you, Wisteria. There you go. She said thank you, I think. Or she said, F you, bitch. I hate you, but I can't speak cat, so I'm gonna say it as a complicate. Complicate? Now, what did Loomis want? What do you want, dude? You got your food right there. Do you want this? Wow! Wow! Oh shit, sorry. That was wrapped around your neck. Oh no. Now Lewis is like, put back on the Kelsey video, bro. I'm just watching this.
No, I do.
Watching Harley Quinn season 3. Okay, so I just finished Wisteria is blocking and sniffing the book. That's okay. I just finished The Dragon Kings of Oklahoma, and this was actually just wonderful. Like, this is a really, really fun and solid and good book. So like it's kind of started out where it's like kind of I thought it was going to be a little bit more silly, and it definitely has like a lot of comedy to it, but it also has like a lot of heart to it, which I was kind of not expecting, and like it told like just like an overall good story. It's like about these two volunteer firemen who like come across this dragon that has been kind of like cooked up in like a meth lab. Like the dragon has been smuggled from Germany, but like the person who like has the dragon also has like a meth lab, and so like they go and they like put out the fire, and then they find this dragon, and they take it back to their house, and they're kind of looking after the dragon and trying to figure out what they're going to do with this dragon. And this is like a story that is like it feels like a more accurate portrayal of a small town rural lifestyle, where it manages to not diminish the hardships and create like pretty three-dimensional feeling characters, but like they also have life, and they have more to them than just like being like redneck stereotypes. So like our main character, like he had like a hip injury, and as such he's on like oxycontin to like kind of like administrate the pain, and like a lot of his journey is like trying to figure out the balance of like making sure that he's like alleviating the pain, but he's not taking too much or getting too addicted. And like how it's like when you have disability, it's like, and you have like recurring pains, like especially in America, that can be something that is really hard to deal with. And like they kind of like on the side are dealing, but like they're really only giving and selling to people who who can't afford it otherwise, kind of thing. And yeah, it's like that's a big problem in especially rural America, is that like a lot of people who are disabled or get injuries really get hooked onto the stuff what they're always told is not gonna affect their life or be super addictive, and then it is. And all the while he's like befriending this dragon, and this is fun because it's very kind of like, it's, I guess it would be light fantasy, but it would be like there's it's like mostly the world that we live in now, but there's slight fantasy elements to it. Him, who's named Daisy, and his gay best friend named Wild Eye are like training these dragons and trying to find like a good life for them, and trying to deal with the scummy drug dealer who brought the dragons in and just wants to abuse them. And there's dragons in here. Daisy is like kind of like a druid. He's got like a bit of druid heritage to him, and like you discover that dragons are only really something that you get in like Germany. Like dragons only showed up in Germany, and they kind of like keep a tight ring on it, so somebody like smuggled them out of Germany to get them to Oklahoma. And there's like this German bounty hunter who's like trying to track them down. And at first they think they're gonna just sell the babies and make a breeding business, but they soon come to fall in love with the dragons. And it was like most of it was like the kind of fantasy that you would get in a very light fantasy setting. Like a lot of urban fantasy, I would say like an urban fantasy, but this is like a rural fantasy, which I don't know if I've read a more rural set fantasy. But there's a lot of really cool action set pieces in this, but there's also just some really great character moments and some really great characters, and they really have life to them, and they really kind of feel like three-dimensional characters. And this was a very fun and funny book, but it was also like very genuinely heartwarming and touching, which I was not expecting from the Dragon Kings of Oklahoma. But hey, here we are. I did finish all of Harley Quinn season 3 today, so I didn't really do a lot of reading. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more of the Investigators of Arkham anthology that I have. That is another NetGalley, but that will probably be the final book that I read. But the Harley Quinn season 3 was really fun and funny, and I had a great time. I always love that show. And then I really did decide to finally finish Halo season 2. I had like the last episode, and I don't know why, but I never finished the last episode, and it was really good too. It was like really creepy, and I really liked that season. A lot of people did not like either seasons of the Halo television show, and I quite enjoyed both. So me. So now I'm gonna clean out the litter boxes and get on with the day. But yeah, this one gets the high recommendation, and I'm really kind of trying to think, is this like a 4-star or a 5-star? It's hard to figure that out, but because I really like this. And the next book is called The Fey Lords of Oklahoma, and it's got like the same characters, and I'm definitely gonna be reading it because yeah, this was just an absolute delight. So woot, 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 woot. And weird. It's definitely weird because there's like werewolves and like dragons and stuff like that. Like putting fantasy elements in our real world is a weird fiction staple. It's rare you see them all sitting in a row. It's very cute. Today has sucked. It's been like raining, and my birdie has hated me. And I have been dying, but the rain has finally passed, and I'm living again. I'm currently staring at these cats, but when I'm not, I'm keep going through the Investigators of Arkham Horror, and I'm about halfway through that, and I will definitely be finishing this before the vlog goes up. And I'm enjoying it. It's just very short stories, and it's a very interesting like format where you're like kind of getting like incomplete snippets of people's lives, and it's like I feel like it's kind of like something to like kind of get the creative forces flowing, and then you play a game kind of thing, and you can like imbibe one of these like investigators. So it's intriguing and interesting. It's just a little bit odd for a short story collection, because sometimes the stories have like a full complete around, but other times they go, I have to investigate this further, and like you don't really know the solution, and it's just kind of interesting. It does a really good job of setting time and place though. With all the other Arkham Horror stuff that I've read, you kind of get like a full, complete picture of the town. So I'm quite enjoying this. It's just, odd, to say the least. I don't think I've ever read a book like this, and there might be too many short stories. Because you can kind of get lost when you're going through this many, and they're very short, usually only like a few pages long. So, that's like 50 short stories because it's like 200 pages. So, it's a lot to get in your brain. Anyways, I'll continue this. And they'll continue to be chilling in the background. Good morning. It is Saturday, the final day of this vlog. You might be like, what happened to Friday? And I'll be like, oh, just not much. Not much. It was not a good day. So I didn't record anything, and I was grumpy. But I did make it so that I will be finishing one more book as well today, which is Long Live Evil, which is like a fantasy novel where somebody from the real world kind of gets thrown into the plot and is imbibing a character which in a fictional universe that they love. And like there's this thing, like there's this MacGuffin called the flower of life and death, and if they can get it, they can survive a very serious illness they have. And like it's very mysterious. You don't really know what's going on. And it's really, really interesting. It's really interesting. It's like it does the thing that's like you should do when you're writing a story like this, where like there are some more modern elements, but the modern elements come from the main character who is not from the world. And like, it's not overdone with the pop culture references. It seems to be like kind of like a good middle tier, like it's done quite well, and I listened to that most of yesterday, so I only have about 5 hours left today. So gonna finish that, and then I'm gonna go to the Warhammer store to pick up a book, maybe, probably. I mean, I'm gonna go there. Will I buy the book and find the book? We'll see. If it's anything like my luck yesterday, it'll be sold out. So, I have finished The Investigators of Arkham, which basically is the same as what I said about it before, where it has some really good short stories and some stories that are very similar. I actually ended up liking the start of the book and the end of the book the best. It's a weird thing because it's like The Investigator of Arkham was a book released in 2016, and this is a version that is being redone and retooled to be released this year in 2024. So it seems to be like a mix of styles for the stories, like where there are definitely near the end, there are some stories that I'm like, oh, that is like a sequel to a book that I've read. And like some of the stories, especially near the end, have a little bit more meat to the bones, where they're a little bit more lengthy and they're more pages for like to be drawn out. Whereas it seems like in the middle, there's a lot of stories that are like very much like only 1 or 2 pages, and they're not bad, but they really do just kind of give you a glimpse of the world, instead of giving you like enough time to really get invested in these characters. And it seems like they introduce some really cool things, and then they don't really do much with them because it's like a way to get you into the setting more or less, and do like really good, world building. So I did enjoy it. I thought it was great. And like the start of the arc had like this beautiful artwork that just disappeared about 20 pages in. So I don't know if that's a thing that's going to not be in the final version of the book. Because at first there was so much cool visuals with the artwork, and then it just kind of trampled off as the stories went on, and just became like kind of like a blank white page setup, which again, it wasn't poorly laid out. It was just laid out awesomely, and then all the artwork disappeared, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if that would have just like made the freaking ebook file way too big or whatever, but I thought I would mention that just in case that is how it will be in the final version, which would be disappointing to say the least. I had a good time with it though. Like it definitely is like a really good job of doing weird Cthulhu mythos kind of thing and setting up all of these various weird tales. So it was enjoyable. It's just a book that you definitely should not marathon. I had to read this over a number of days because you kind of just get the same thing-ish over and over again. And it's a fun flavor setting for, thinking about the cosmic horrors of the universe, but you don't get a lot of character building and stuff like that. I also did finish Long Live Evil, and I really hope that's the start of a series, and I really want you all to get that book so they write more of them, because it ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm worried that I'll never know the ending to the book. And I was like, oh my goodness, because I thought this was just going to be like a comedy book. I thought this was going to be like a complete comedy book where it's just like somebody who comes from our world that goes into a fantasy world and like does whatever they want and becomes the evil queen. And that's kind of what happens, but then the book does the thing where it takes itself
seriously in the elements that you would want a book like this to take itself seriously, to uplift it to become just a fantastic fantasy story, where the characters who come from the real world do have kind of a flippant outlook on the universe at first. But for all of the people who live within this universe, this fantasy universe, it's real to them. It matters to them. There is stakes, and it starts out where she is very much like, ha ha, I can do whatever. This isn't real. This is just a story. These people don't really matter. And there's consequences to that level of thinking. And she kind of like evolves as he goes on and like starts to take the stuff really seriously. And you as the reader really kind of get enveloped into these lives of this world. And I had a great time with it. I was emotional. It got some really good emotional beats to it. It was a very interesting setup because it's this woman who comes into the fantasy world after she has been going through years of cancer diagnosis and chemotherapy, and then she's kind of like going right before the end of her life, is given this chance to go into this fantasy universe, and if she gets this flower, she'll be able to come back. And it was so interesting because like that's not a trope that I would normally enjoy, because I feel like a lot of times like those tropes are from a perspective of somebody who doesn't actually kind of understand what it would be like to go from one to the other. But this book, we have to see this jump. We have to see this jump while she do it. This jump, this jump, come on, do it. Jump, do the leap, do the leap. This book took itself very seriously in that regard, where you do feel like all of these emotions that she's felt and all of these understanding of the world that she has got from her diagnosis and from being chronically ill for so long, actually matter and felt very true to life about how it would be to experience the world from that perspective. So I had a wonderful time with it, and I absolutely loved it. So who would have known? But yes, long live evil. It's great, bitch. And yeah, that was just a complete surprise because I was like, I had no idea. I had no idea. I would have never in a million years thought it would be as touching and heartwarming and heartbreaking as it was. So, a really good surprise, and I would be very much recommending that to everyone. So yeah, I have a weird television club, which is another thing I do on my Patreon coming up soon. And then I think I might try to get these 2 comic books done before the end of this vlog. So I'll do this, and then I will recap and finale all of this finagling. Toodaloo!
Lady is guilty of very unladylike
Watching
behavior.
Dark Room with the patrons.
That want.
It's pretty great. Okay, so I did just finish these 2 comics, and felt like that would be like a fun and good way to end the vlog. Are these super weird? I don't know. Well, I think this one's weird as hell, but this one, it's basically like a prequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, and it's set after Godzilla King of the Monsters. Those are the American Godzilla movies, and this is basically just like a movie about Godzilla swimming in the ocean and being like, yo, monsters, go back to sleep. And they're like, okay. And then other monsters, he's like, oh, monsters, you better go back to bed. And then he fights them until they go, fine, I'll go away. And yeah, no, it's fun. The new monsters in this are kind of interesting. There's like Tiamat, and then there's also like, what the heck is the other one called? You know it's a weird monster if I don't remember it. Oh yeah, Amaluk, this thing. That thing is weird. That's like a weird Lovecraftian monster that you would never see in the movies, so that's cool. Scylla's here as well. I like Scylla. It was funny, reading this is like the only appearance that Amaluk and Tiamat have, and it's interesting that both of those creatures do show up in this. So yeah, this one's pretty simple, just Godzilla swimming around, and it's kind of like a nice, like, relaxing comic. He goes, swims, tells people to go to bed, that's it. This one is absolutely stupid as all hell, but is fun. So this is set in a very generic Justice League, like superhero universe, like with Justice League. Like you don't have to know any continuity. it's like as long as you know who the Justice League is as a concept, you will get this fine. And Superman is asking Lois to marry him, but all of a sudden Godzilla shows up. And you're like, okay. And then Godzilla and all of these other Titans show up as well. And it's basically because, the Legion of Doom, which is like Lex Luthor and his team of miscreants, they break into Superman's Fortress of Solitude, steal a magic crystal, and then bring them all to to our planet, and then just chaos ensues. And it's a wild, very silly comic. I had a great time with it, even though I don't know if I would call it good. The writing is not great. There was some one-off jokes that I'm like, that was just a lame joke. But I did have fun with it, even if it is maximum cheese, and is very much there's not much to it in terms of actually interesting story. But yeah, no, Lex Luthor, rebuilds Mechagodzilla, King Kong becomes the Green Lantern. Superman gets his ass kicked by Godzilla. Randomly in the final fight, this thing shows up. Legitimately, the League of Assassins, who is the guys who Ra's al Ghul, people who trained Batman, whatever. They just show up with this. And I guess, are you supposed to think that they just threw that thing into the Lazarus pit? I don't know. And this book has a really weird way of trying to set stakes, where occasionally a character will just show up to die. In one of the Camazotz is in this as well, which I thought was kind of cool. But in one of the first things with Superman, there's a character called, what is it, Atom Smasher? I think it's Atom Smasher that shows up. And Godzilla just snaps his neck. They're having a fight. You're whoa, wow. And then Godzilla just snaps a bitch's neck. And he dead. And there's all kinds of really weird one-off things where you're things that happen in comic books all the time, where a character will get knocked out or punched or something. But then the writer's just yeah, he dead. And you're okay. I guess they're dead now. Yeah, so Batman's got giant robot fights. This is the maximum level of silly, stupid fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it. King Kong doesn't get a lot to do in this, to be honest with you. He's on Skull Island for a lot of it, and hanging out with Supergirl and Green Arrow, and then he gets taken over by Gorilla Grodd, who of course it's Gorilla Grodd. He's grodding it up. Yeah, so he mind controls Kong and then brings him to the final battle. And then, someone gorillas his Grodd, and Grodd is down, and they're no longer mind controlled. So he joins a fight on the side of the humans, and then he becomes a freaking Green Lantern. And he becomes a Green Lantern because Gorilla Grodd brutally murders Guy Gardner. That's one of the things that happens. Random characters are just oh, they're dead. You're what? Okay. This is comic books. I've seen a character get that 17 times and they're fine. But this time they're nah, bitch, he dead. And you're okay. Did I just spoil this for you all? Yes. Is this book literally immune to being spoiled because it's just silly things after silly things and it is a fun time to read? Also, yes. So, don't get on me for spoiling this for you. But it was weird as hell. So I'm going to bring those back to the library, and that will be the end of this vlog. I hope you enjoyed the weirdness. And this was kind of a random vlog because it was kind of sporadic. Some days I didn't update because I was dying. So at least it ended happy with Godzilla. Bye-bye.